Okay, I'm putting this in the beginning of this. This stream, which I thought I did, but I've had a little bit of issues with my camera and my streaming lately, so I thought this was working. It looked like it was, and then it wasn't. So, anyway, I will make sure this doesn't happen again. But anyway, here's just what I thought was a live stream, which turned out not to be, which it kind of leads into a lot of what the talk was about. So, all right, I'll see everyone hopefully in a few weeks for an actual live stream, which actually goes somewhere. Bye. Hopefully that won't happen again. Right when I started, it kind of figures. I've had a little bit of issues with this software lately, so we'll see how we do today. It did not work with me on Twitch the other day, so I ended up just doing a video. So if it doesn't work, looks like I'm gonna have to find a different software, but we will give it a shot for a little while today and see how it goes. I want to talk a little bit. I'm going to keep the Q&A up today because I did want to come on and do some Q&As if people had questions. Sometimes people would just put them in the comments. So if you miss these and you still want to have a question asked, just put it in the comment of this and I'll answer it the next time I do one of these. So I can still do it. It just won't be a live answer. I want to talk a little bit about some of a little bit of weirdness that's happening with 2024. And a little different from other years. And I don't do energy reports, and I don't even know if they're much of a thing anymore. I think I see some people do them, but I don't think they're as big as they were maybe 4 or 5 years ago because so many people do them now. And people link them into tarot card readings, and people link all that stuff in everywhere. So pure energy reports are not kind of what they used to be, in a sense. You know, they're not what they originally started out to be. Now it's more the energy and how it affects different things that are going to happen to you. Whereas the purer form of it was just the energy hits the earth, the energy activates the consciousness, and then you start, wherever you are in your journey is what's going to kind of pop off, you know? So if you're in a human consciousness, you're going to have a lot different experience than if you're in an awakening. Or if you're in your ascension process. It's not going to affect everybody the same way. So when people make these specific things and say, oh, this is going to happen this way, this is going to happen this way, and this energy is going to cause this, not necessarily. That's a very one way to look at it. It's going to affect everybody differently. It's not going to be the same for everybody. So I do like to kind of mention that when you do, you know, see those kind of titles and all that kind of stuff, that one person might be going through hell with the energies coming through, and someone else is completely happy and in bliss and magic and opening up portals somewhere. You know, it doesn't mean you're. I used to think I was doing it wrong because I'm like, how come this is working for everybody else and everyone else seems to be having this great time and I'm not having this great time? It's kind of funny that I used to think that way. So, but I did because I was like, this is bullshit. What's going on? So just be aware of that. Be aware it's not going to be the same for everybody. It's not going to affect everybody the same way. Everyone's going to be a little different with it. So if you're not having an amazing time and everyone's saying, oh, these energies are great, the frequencies are always going to affect people differently. So it's not a one size fits all. It's just not what it is. Now, I am going to be on here more doing live stuff, which I've been doing. I do most of my live stuff on Twitch, and I do some live stuff on Instagram. But I'm going to start coming on, and next time I will do more notice. But this kind of leads into 2024, which is a little different for me, and I've seen other people talk about it, so I don't think it's just me that's experiencing it in this way, where we talk a lot about the summer solstice and how we kind of were revving up, you know, for what our templates were coming in for 2024 in 2023. And by the time we get to January, we're already seeing these templates or have an idea of what's going on for 4 or 5 months. It's not like we hit January and all of a sudden it becomes clear. Usually by January, we're starting. You know, we have our boots on the ground, like people like to say. We're starting to go. You know, now we're getting ready for whatever was going to be a focus. It doesn't mean you won't be doing everything else. It's just you're going to have a main focus for a year. Like for me, 2021 was streaming. I did a lot of streaming that year. I still stream, but that's when I first started live streaming, which is a lot different. It's a lot different consciousness to live stream than to do videos. Videos are way easier to do. Live streaming consciousness is a lot harder to do. So I have to make sure I have a lot of room, energetic space. No one's going to be around the house for like a long period of time, so I can really expand out. Videos are a lot easier, even though I don't splice my videos normally unless I have some kind of issues with the technology. I don't. Especially when you're doing Q&As, it takes a lot of, you have to hold the field and you have to be kind of ready, you know. So that one's it's a little different. So it's a different aspect of me kind of does those, and a different aspect does the videos. Just like when you're when I'm doing a session, a different aspect of me kind of does that. So for me, 2021 was streaming. 2022 was courses. I did a lot of courses that year. I think I did like 10 courses I did that year. Streaming just wasn't focus anymore. It wasn't a challenge as much anymore because I'd done it 100 times. You know, by that point, you know, I've done probably over hundreds of hours of streaming at this point. Not to mention how many videos I've done. So it wasn't as challenging as it was to go into courses. You know, that was the next thing. So this year I could see I needed to get back in and do more Q&As, which I used to do actually just on the website years ago. A couple years ago, I just would have them. You'd have to sign in on the website to do them, but I decided to kind of bring them over to YouTube. So, and that was kind of what I saw. I knew I was going to do them. I did something around Christmas. I don't remember if I did it Christmas Eve. I did something around Christmas time. And that was kind of just kind of getting my feet into it a little bit. I'm figuring out how to change my stream keys again because I kind of forgotten because I just stream in one place. So it was kind of the technology kind of working through it. And then you kind of springboard into, okay, now it's time to start. Well, what's happened when January has hit? And I would even say it probably goes back to 12/12, and then 12/26 was big for a lot of people this year. A lot of people say this when the Galactic Gateways open, and people will kind of start getting into, you know, really laying in a lot of more galactic, multidimensional type of stuff. It feels like January kind of didn't start. And even though we're almost at the end of January, a lot of us have felt kind of like a pause. We haven't felt that boots on the ground energy. We have kind of felt like we're in a holding pattern again. It hasn't felt like the right time. I mean, I'm doing this on, what's today? Today's the 27th. The last Saturday in January. And I can't even promise these are going to be on Saturday. I don't even know when I'm going to be doing them. But because it just hasn't felt like time yet. And I've seen a lot of people say that, you know, I knew I had stuff I wanted to do this year, but it's not the right time. And linearly, that might be how we hear it. Okay, it's not the right time yet. And I use that. I've said that on this channel before. It's not the right time. Energetically, it's not aligned yet. Energetically, it's something else that has to occur first. There's more clearings that have to take place, which tells me it's a bigger year. You know, it's a bigger year for a lot of us because we didn't hit the ground running as much as we normally do when we hit January. Because, like I said, we've had months to get ready for, you know, and we've even started. A lot of these things sometimes will start in November for the next year, knowing we're going to be doing all this stuff. So when we get to these spaces and we get to the kind of when we think it's go time and we just don't feel it. And when I say I don't feel it, it's a lot of different ways that happens for me. I just don't have the energy to do it. You know, I just feel like, oh, I really don't want to do that. I also knew there's other priorities. I always say body stuff is a lot bigger priority. It's always going to be a bigger priority than anything else you're going to do. No matter what you feel like you have to do, your body is the biggest priority you're going to have as far as getting your body vibration up. Making sure you're not depleting all of your light. You do not want to be in that space. You don't want to be depleting. You don't want to be depleted. So, and clearing takes a lot out of the body, and literally, and it takes a lot to do the clearings and to embody in the light. Your body goes through a lot. Your back goes through a lot. Like, this is a big year for my back. I have a lot of back pain this year, which I normally never do. So I've had to do a lot of massages and stuff like that for my back. So even in a lot of the videos I've done, I always see me kind of rubbing on my back when I'm doing streams or when I'm doing videos. because it's been bothering me a lot this year. And that's a huge, you're kind of starting to set the structure for a lot of your realities, and you have to look at the spine. You'll notice probably, well, no, you notice, if you haven't noticed yet, you're going to notice after I say it. When you're standing up straight, you're in a more linear mode. And when you're listening to a lot of higher consciousness stuff, you're probably going to find yourself slumping. You know, you're kind of going to slump over. You're going to want to be you're going to be in bed. You're going to want to be laying down. You don't want to be setting up. It gets harder and harder to set up and actually do stuff. A lot of people that do a lot of consciousness work, you'll see them laying in bed or laying on a couch. And it's not because they don't want to set up. It's just, it's not a linear way. It's a way to kind of get out of your linear mind, and your body is not ready for that linear focus unless you're standing up straight. So when you're slumped over or you're not quite as straight for a while, and I think this does kind of shift where I can do videos, and obviously I'm going to be setting up straight when I'm doing them. But I do feel like when there are other modes when my body just can't set up straight. It wants to kind of be in more of a slanted, slopey kind of position. Because it's a nonlinear position, and that's what consciousness is. It's not a linear thing. You know, it's not a linear way to create. It's a very nonlinear way to create, which makes it kind of funny that, you know, we go through a lot of stops and starts with how we do our ascension process and especially our awakening. Our awakening is full of a lot of stops and starts because we're just not quite ready yet. You know, it's kind of like it's almost like you're leaving the earthly plane in a sense, but you're just not quite ready to go yet. So we kind of stop and start. We'll go a little, and then we don't want to go anymore because we don't want to leave a lot of the stuff behind yet. In some ways, some of it might still be working. In some ways, we just have an attachment to it, so we don't want to leave it. So you'll find people are in all different places with so much of this type of, there's a lot of space in it. And that's probably a better way to say it. There's a lot of space in consciousness. There's a lot of places you can be. There's a lot of places you can kind of nest in for a while and stay. But you can't, nothing lasts forever. And especially when you're doing vibrational, nonlinear realities, it can't last forever. Because you can't stay in the vibration of that forever. Because you're consistently going to be going higher. And the higher you go, the harder it is to keep everything around you the same. You can't do it because everything that was around you before was attached to that vibration of your body. Think of it as it creates around your body. I'm trying to think of a movie where that happens, where things kind of form around you. Probably more so, we'd see it more in cartoons, where things kind of form around you. Even in the movie The Matrix, he kind of got plugged into it, you know, and then he learned how to move it around, but you didn't see him so much creating it in the beginning. He was just kind of plugged in. And that's kind of in a way how we are in our human consciousness. We kind of just get plugged in there, but we kind of miss the boat on that we created it anyway, that we created all of it. And when we start having to own up to that and having to understand that I created everything, even the most distorted shit there is, I did that. Like, why did I do that? I don't know, but I did that. So we're going to find ourselves always kind of going back and forth for a long time. You know, and sometimes a lot of people say it's like, I feel like I went backwards. We just go deeper in. So we feel like we're going back and forth, like we're clearing, and then we're doing it. And oh, now I got to go back and do some more clearing. And I didn't quite get it all. And now it's more of the same stuff again. And I can't kind of break out of this reality because our body consciousness does dictate the reality. I mean, that's what dictates the reality. That's how we get to the next stage. That's how we get to the next phase. But nothing lasts forever. And you start to appreciate every reality you're in a little bit more once you go through how many times they shift and change. Once you start really getting into the meat of your ascension process, where you're really starting to reconstruct everything, and you let a lot of things go, and you let a lot of things, you close what you can close out. Some things just kind of phase out. You don't even have to close them out. We've all had those realities where we thought it was going to be so tough to close them out, and then they just kind of, once we stop putting any energy into them, they just kind of fade away. Then we kind of felt like, wow, I thought that'd be so much harder, and it was just gone. And the same thing when some new ones come in. We work and work and work and work and work for certain ones, and then they come in so fast. It's almost like overnight. You know, we work and work for years to get to this one reality, and then it's there, and we're like, wow, I thought that would even come in a little bit, wouldn't be so that, well, there it is. That's why we don't really get shocked by anything. We don't get surprised by anything, because it's like, oh, well, there it is. And how long I've been waiting for that, or, you know, how long I've been waiting for this person to show up? My gosh, it's been like 3 years. I mean, we just don't get surprised by things. It almost reminds me of the character in the Marvel movies. I can't remember his name. The one in the Thor movies that could see the future. And one of the guys said it's really hard to catch him because he always sees us coming. You know, we can't really sneak up on him to put him in jail because he knows when we're coming. And that's kind of how it is. You know, it knows when you're coming. You know, it knows when we don't get surprised. And if we are surprised by something, it's because we didn't really see the signs, or we kind of don't like the way it's coming in, and because we wanted it to maybe come in through a different person, we wanted it to come in a different way. So when it comes in a different way than how our human created it, even though we knew, let me rephrase that, how our human thought it was going to come in, right? So our human's like, oh, it's going to come in this way, and this is how it's going to come in. And we know it's going to come in, but then it comes in kind of backwards in a different way, because our soul realities are so backwards and different from our human realities. So once we get to realities that are totally different than where we started, we know we're getting more into soul-aligned realities, because they're not going to be what our human-aligned ones were. They're a total flip. They're totally different. They're just not the same. So when you start getting to a place where everything is flipped up on its backside, in a sense, and you're like, wow, this is just totally different and totally new, then that's kind of when you know. And that's kind of when you know you're getting into something different here. Even if the realities you don't want to experience. I've gone through a lot I didn't want to experience, but because it was important, I knew I had to. And another way I knew that is my universe gave me no other option. It won't give you an option. It'll take everything else away, but that one course. And that's the one you're going on, because if you had any other option, you would not go that way. And I'm like, and that would be true. Especially for the reality I was in last year. I remember thinking, if I had any other option, I would do it. And I was not given another one. You know, it was like, no, you have to do this one, because this one is going to be the key to unlock so many other things. Because we cannot be a higher self if we're living in any way, in the role, in any reality, with any of our human stuff left. You know, so we have to clear it all out. And that is not easy for our human to understand, because there's going to be things we avoid. And I'm sure all of us can sit there and think about the one thing right now that I don't know if I have much anymore. I think I just got drugged through my last year that I knew was out of balance. I knew was not aligned at how I was doing the reality, but I just didn't want to deal with the reality. And then I was kind of forced to. Now, would I have been forced to deal with it if I had been dealing with it all along? Probably not in the same way, but I could also see where you're also in a higher version of the reality on how it would have played out in your human experience. You're in a different dimension of the reality. So I see a lot of people who will go through periods where they kind of hop from place to place. You know, there's an activation in that. There's living as a vagabond kind of energy to that. There's a lot of people that go through that part of their journey where they don't really have a home anymore. You know, they sold their house, or they just left wherever they were, and they're just kind of, in a sense, homeless. But they're not going through homelessness in the same way you would go through that word in a human consciousness reality. You know, it's a harsher way to go through it in those realities. Whereas you still might be homeless, but it's a different dimension you're going through it. Like, I could see a lot of the dimensions I went through where, yeah, but you could see the flip of that, where you were in this dimension from a human reality, because you would have ended up in it anyway. It could have dragged on a lot longer because you would have avoided it. It would have been the same dimension, but now you're going through it at a higher consciousness. And since you're a higher consciousness, everyone around you is a higher consciousness also. It's activating a different consciousness for the reality. So what forms out of that consciousness is a different experience. And what you thought was going to be miserable ends up being not so miserable. In the beginning, it's like, okay, well, it's not so miserable. And then as I kept going through the reality, I'm like, actually, this is kind of a really cool kind of reality that I'm creating here. And I'm clearing a lot of stuff along the way. like for me, ancestral karma was huge last year. You know, that's getting through all of our blood family type of stuff. And that's a lot for a bunch of us. Because that's the one thing we kind of get away from blood family for long periods of time. We don't want to deal with them because there's so much stuff there. It was funny. I was in, one of the cats outside got injured, so I was in the emergency vet the other day. And I was listening to this woman who came in who was trying to get a cat put to sleep, who was sick, and the son, there was a financial thing about how they wanted to pay so much, and the place they were at was wanted to charge so much, like, I don't know, a couple $100. And the mom was like, oh, I don't know, and the son wanted to put the cat down, and there a lot of human arguing, you know, a lot of stuff going on about what to do. So, you know, I was like, well, I'm happy to pay the price to put the cat to sleep. That's fine. You know, I was paying this other bill anyway. The cat actually I had wasn't my cat either, so it didn't really matter. You know, the cat in the carrier I had carried in is just kind of a community cat outside. So I was like, it doesn't matter. I can do it. But there was so much resistance to that because the mother and son had so many other things to work through. They couldn't even they'd rather have the cat. The cat was no longer even in the equation anymore. Now the cat is to the side. You know, now it's just all of their stuff about whether the son's taking responsibility, whether the son should adopt a cat, whether the son should have done all this stuff in the first place. And it's now not about it's no longer about the cat anymore. Now it's just about their stuff. And we get into so many realities, and they left with the cat. They did not, you know, put the cat to sleep. I'm not sure, you know, after that, the reality kind of fades out. As soon as it leaves our vision, it kind of fades away. But it was just a good example to kind of watch that dynamic, because we learn so much by watching how human realities interact. Not judging them, but observing them. Because we can also see where we played that out too, where we still might be playing that out. Where there's so much stuff in the way, we can't get to the point of what's really the best thing to do in this reality. You know, what is the kind thing to do in this reality? Why are we letting all this other stuff get in the way of stuff that happened 10 years ago? That doesn't matter. Stuff that happened 10 minutes ago doesn't matter. You know, it's all this stuff that we, I did a video a couple weeks ago about roles and how we kind of stay in a role and we'll stay in a set role. And we don't want to get out of the role. You know, we want to just stay there. We don't want to leave the role behind, because if we leave the role behind, then we have to leave the story behind, and there's an identity around that. There's a victimness to it. But they weren't ready to leave that behind, so they're going to continue to bicker about it. And what it was about, what the original bicker was about, was getting the cat put down, but all of a sudden it's not about that anymore. You know, now it's just them bickering. Nothing to do with the cat anymore. The cat is now not even, it's just a tool that's bringing all this up for them to clear it. You know, but unless one of them wants to shift, they're going to just stay in trying to clear it. And they will clear a little at a time, but they're going to be stuck in these really rough realities trying to clear it, because they're getting too attached to the roles. They're getting too attached to, you know, what it used to be like. And these were not, you know, this was not a small child. This was an adult as far as the son went. So when we start to see this stuff and really observe it, it's mind-blowing to see how much stuff that the human consciousness can carry and carry and carry and continue to go and go and go and go with it, and just get more spun up, more of a story, and it just doubles down. You know, it's like in Vegas. It just keeps doubling down, and we're going to double down on it again, and we're going to just keep doubling down on the same realities and hope it ends a different way. Maybe all of a sudden this will, you know, someone in this reality will shift. But unless nobody shifts, it just keeps playing out the same way over and over and over again. So every time we have the chance to really watch and observe a human reality, I highly recommend you're always in observer mode to watch and look, where am I doing that? Am I playing that out somewhere? And when I saw this kind of take place, and I'm right there, and I'm, of course, not supposed to be there that day. It was kind of a lot of different things that happened to put me in this exact environment again, which I've been in that environment 3 times this year, actually, the exact same emergency cat hospital with 3 different cats. It was kind of, it's kind of been this marker for me. because you do see there's a lot of reason we get put in certain places, because we do bring a consciousness to that place. We can bring kindness to that place. But I knew what I was supposed to do. I knew when they came in, I'm supposed to offer to pay that bill. It was not even a question. I knew it from the second I heard it. I was like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to, this is the reason the cat's got a leg injury, and this is why I'm here today. Because it's not really about this cat either. It's about the cat that just came in. So we really want to be observant, but we don't want to judge. We can just observe what's going on and see where we played out the same thing. And when we can put it to, I played out the same thing over and over and over again myself. So why am I surprised to see it? Because I played it out too. So there is a compassion that can come through for that when we see someone so wrapped up in it, and they can't even break out of the story. And then there's a story on top of the story on top of the story. And there's a part where we listen to that, and we're supposed to, because, the human ego and the human consciousness, same thing. It just wants to be listened to. That's it. So when you get someone who just wants to tell you the story, it just wants to hear itself talk, in a sense. It wants someone to say, yeah, that's yeah, you got screwed there. Or yeah, that's really harsh. That's really terrible there. What happened? Because they want to hear that. But we can't keep them in that consciousness. Now, in this case, these are not people in my everyday reality, so we don't go to that next step by trying to shift that consciousness away from the story. But it is a good time to observe these things when you're out and you see all these things start to take place, and you're like, wow, like that's crazy that happened that way. It's nuts that I was here to listen to this. And you're going to find your universe is going to put you in different places, so you do that. Your universe is going to put you in certain places so you can observe. It's going to put you in certain places so you can be tested to see, will you offer to help here? Are you going to stand and say, I will help you? Or will you not? Where's your line? You're going to be pushed past your comfort zone on that one. You're going to be pushed past, what am I supposed to do here? What is the kind thing to do here? And sometimes our initial thing to do here is not what we're supposed to do. What am I supposed to do here? What is my role? So this year's a lot about roles. I've done a couple videos on it already. It's not even the end of January. It is literally not even, the first month of the year. So it's a lot about dissecting what our roles are, where we be playing out the same role, where do we not want to shift the role because we don't want to shift the story. And there's a lot of people out there that will say, well, I don't want to stay stuck in this story. I don't want to stay in this reality. But there's a point where we do have an identity to it. There is an identity to these realities. There's an identity to being a survivor. There's an identity to being, the strong person. There's an identity to all of these things and stories around them. And they become part of our identity. It's even an identity around being a victim. That people don't want to lose that, because in the story, I'm the victim. And I want the sympathy of being the victim in the story. Because the consciousness isn't there yet for them to see they created the whole thing to clear the victim energy, to then be able to get out of the victim energy. But they're still really in the program and really in the victim energy. So they can't see all that. But leaving the victim energy behind means we got to leave the story behind. And I got to leave that sympathy behind about being a victim. And these realities just loop back and loop back and loop back. And it really does become us on a hamster wheel, just looping back and back and back and back and back. So as we go through, I'll probably maybe do a little bit of just energy in the sense of how things are kind of starting to play out every month when I come on and do these lives. January has been a hold. It just feels like a hold. It feels like a hold up. We're not done yet. And if anyone is feeling differently about that, I would love to see and feel how it is for you. I mean, are you feeling the same? Like, oh my gosh, no, I don't feel like it's a hold at all. Or, oh my gosh, yes, this is totally a hold. like we were I feel like I'm in a holding pattern. Like it's just not time to go forward. Which once again tells me it's going to be a big year, which means there's more stuff you have to clear to do this next thing. You know, it's not just a few things you got to do. You're going to have to do a lot more clearing. You're not quite ready yet. So January's kind of showed me you're not quite ready yet. You're not quite ready to delve into this next thing you're going to go do. You have to clear more stuff. You have to get your body's vibration up higher. You have to do more. You're not ready for this yet. And it just says there's a lot of big realities this year. There's a lot of things people are going to be tackling this year that we need a little more prep for. You know, we need a little more time. And I'm going to use time, linear time here, to get to where we need to be, to go to that next space. It's not just about, let me just get in and get it done. And for a lot of years, it's kind of been that way for me. I knew way ahead what I was going to have to go do. And then it's like, okay, let me just get in here and start it. But if we're not feeling it, and you're in kind of the bucket where a lot of us are not feeling it, and we're in this hold, take time to appreciate the hold. You know, I didn't want to come in here and just talk about that. I'm not going to stay on. Oh my God, I've been on 30 minutes. I had no idea it's been that long. Feel where the hold is taking you. You know, close your eyes, go inside and go, okay, I'm in a holding pattern and I feel that. I know there's stuff I got to do, but I feel that hold. I feel that holding pattern here. I feel like I'm not quite, you know, ready to go forward. What's going on? What's going on with me here? What do I need to go do first? Really be with that. And don't try to push through the hold. You know, because if we try to push through the hold, what we're going to find is we're just going to be held. We're going to be on hold longer. You know, your universe is going to do the, oh, please hold. Just wait a minute. You're not quite ready yet. There's a reason for that. And a lot of times we just want to get going. I know I had the same feeling this year. No, I just want to get going. I want to get this done. I want to get into all this stuff. But there's a bigger reason behind it that we can't see yet, and to be honest, I can't see it yet either. I have some ideas on why I'm kind of in this hold pattern, and we'll see how that shakes out. We'll see how that kind of comes to fruition in the next couple months for me to understand. Because once we get our consciousness to a certain place, we can look back and understand. When we're in the middle of it, we can't understand. You know, I've been sitting around a lot of nights and just watching a movie, which I don't do that often at night, but I'm like, oh no, I'm just going to turn on this movie and watch it, and I'm going to turn on this movie and watch it. Oh look, there's a movie on it. I always knew when I was going to do any type of upgrade where I needed to be sitting in one place for a long period of time, because one of my shows would come back on and I could binge the whole season. And I was like, oh, it must be an upgrade, you know. Cobra Kai's on for another season, or oh, it's Umbrella Academy just came back on, or you know, it's what's the other one? Oh, I can't even think of what any of them are. Oh crap! It tells me how long it's been, how my memory starts to go. When you start trying to look back in realities, your memory's gone. So if you can't remember names of people, don't worry about it. I can't remember anything. Okay, so I think I'm gonna leave that today. I think this was a good kind of check-in for everyone. So people have questions you want me to talk about, anything you want me to talk about in my next live, I will do that. Just leave it in the comments and I'll work it in. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I think that's it. I think I'm going to go outside. It hasn't started raining yet, so I'm going to try to get outside and enjoy the weather. And I will see everyone soon. So.